Well, it all began like all fairy tales began. Yeah, at the beginning. You see, once upon a time, there was this little girl named Ella. You see, this chick named of Cinderella, well, she was a square chick, like, like she didn't even own a skateboard. All she did was, like, live a simple life in a simple house with a simple father. It was simply awful, is what it was, I'll tell you. Well, it so happened that Cinderella's father was also nearsighted. Well, being a little nearsighted was a real handicap when it come time for Cinderella's dad to pick himself like, a new wife. Ooh, did he pull a boo-boo. He married a woman that was so ugly she had to sneak up on a dipper to get a drink of water. She looked like a delegate at a scarecrow's convention. I mean, like she was unpretty. Well, having an ugly stepmother is bad enough, but the stepmother had two daughters that words couldn't describe. I mean, like, they were that ugly. You wouldn't believe it if I told you how mean they were to Cinderella. For instance, they'd turn on television and they'd all sit around watching, like, But the only thing they would let Cindy watch was the commercials. Talk about cruelty, but Cindy didn't let it bug her too much. I mean, like, she kept saying, go ahead and laugh, but someday I'm gonna meet my Prince Charming and I'll go to a ball and I'm gonna have a blast and like that. But the homely sisters just snickered and snickered. But Cinderella wasn't the only one in this story that was unhappy, You see, there was likewise the king, who had a young son, who he called Junior, And the king was getting worried because Junior didn't seem to want to settle down and get married. And the king said to the boy,
Junior, you're 19 now. Why don't you think seriously about getting married?
Get married? Gee, Dad, you don't know what you're asking. Have you seen the goons that live around here?
Yes, son. I see what you mean. But there must be at least one girl in all the kingdom who isn't, like homely.
The king decided, that they was going to have to find a girl beautiful enough to marry Junior.
So how are we going to swing it, Dad?
Well, boy, we're going to have a ball. The biggest bash in the history of our kingdom. We'll invite everyone in the land to attend. Then, when all the people of the kingdom are here, we can find out once and for all if there's a beauty here that could become your princess.
Crazy, Daddy-o!
Exclaimed Junior. Perhaps not exactly in that terminology, I don't know. Soon the royal trumpets blew. Well, like, the king announced the biggest ball in the history of the land, and everybody in the kingdom was given an invite, And naturally, the first one to hear the good news was Cinderella's conniving-type stepmother.
What a wonderful opportunity! Do you realize that if either of my lovely daughters marries the prince, I'd be sort of step-queen by marriage?
Anyway, soon the big night arrived, and Cindy sat quietly in the chimney corner and looked on sad-like as the stepmother and her two new sisters called a cab and headed for the royal palace. As Cindy lay on her little army cot weeping, she heard a most unusual voice call to her.
Cinderella! Cinderella! Who's there? It is I, me, your fairy-type godmother. Well, what do you want, fairy godmother? You've done a lot of good deeds for a lot of people, and you deserve to have a little happiness of your own. Now, isn't there something you want?
Well, I'd love to go to the royal ball, but it's impossible.
Fiddlesticks! Nothing is impossible to me.
And with that, the fairy-type godmother waved her magic wand, and as she touched Cinderella's old threadbare threads, they changed as if by magic to a real crazy outfit.
It's so lovely, but I still can't go to the royal ball. My scooter threw a rod, and every cab in town is at the palace.
Relax. I can put you in a little low-mileage beauty in no time. Just go out in the field and bring me a large pumpkin.
You know, Cindy thought her fairy godmother had kind of flipped, but she followed instructions anyways and brought in a nice big pumpkin. Well, raising her magic wand again, the fairy-type godmother touched the big pumpkin, and right before Cindy's eyes, it changed into the most knocked-out dragster you ever seen. This rig had everything, you know, like fuel injection, a flatty mill, chrome pipes, a 404 cam, a pair of regulation slicks on the rear, and dummy spots. I mean, this is a real tool job, like. But the fairy godmother warned Cindy must be back home before midnight, or her beautiful clothes is going to turn back into dirty rags, and her chromy dragster is going to turn back into a pumpkin.